yeah, I mean, that's pretty radically different, I would say, from a lot of the other smart gun proposals that have been out there, the prototypes that we've seen, which generally work by having some sort of electronic safety interruption system, like something that maybe disconnects the trigger from the sear or blocks the firing pin from protruding or something along those lines until you use either an RFID chip like you have in your credit card, or fingerprint reader, or something along those lines, and which are still sort of at their very base the same mechanical device as any other firearm. Your design is really pretty radically different from that, right?
Correct. Yeah. And so what you're talking about is what I would classify as like an inhibition-based approach, right? So basically you're taking a traditional mechanical gun, you got a trigger, like in a striker-fired architecture, you got a trigger bar, you got a sear drops, striker springs forward, hits the back of the round, gun goes off. And you basically do something to prevent that from working in some way, right? You put a pin through the trigger bar, you disconnect it, you do something like that basically is a kind of a little electromechanical lock inside of the gun. We started there, right? And so like back in 2018, when we were iterating on different prototypes, and like we were iterating on prototypes that were based on like Glock architectures and SIG architectures and other sorts of things like that, looking at like, hey, what would like a retrofit kit or some device that would attach to an existing firearm? The only way to do that is via an inhibition approach, right? You take a normal gun because you're trying to base it on a normal gun, and then you have to prevent it from working. There's a bunch of challenges that we encountered with that eventually, I've already spoiled the punchline, but eventually led us to choose to spend the engineering dollars and the time to develop something that's much, much more novel, because the inhibition-based system just didn't fundamentally, I think, meet the needs of our customers. And in particular, there's two primary things that matter for a smart gun. The first one is reliability, right? That is the fundamental, most important, like key thing between what I think a viable smart gun looks like and what a non-viable smart gun would look like. Especially like for our use case, and I should have maybe said this at the beginning, we're designing what we hope to be the world's best home defense handgun, right? And so we've very narrowly focused on that particular use case, the requirements, the form factors, the calibers, the power, situations, all sorts of things like that would make sense in a home defense use case. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why we've chosen that I'm happy to talk to later. But it's allowed us to make decisions that optimize for that use case. In that environment, you're like just like almost any other use case for a firearm outside of maybe sporting goods and shooting sports. You're trusting your life to that firearm, and you're trusting your life to that firearm probably in an unpredictable defensive situation in the middle of the night when you're barely awake, and probably reasonably undertrained. At least I feel like I would be undertrained in that environment. And so with that, it has to work, right? It needs to unlock every time you pick it up. It needs to have at least as good of a like mechanical malfunction performance as a traditional gun. We're hoping to do better for what's worth, but like we at least will need to meet the the Glocks and the SIGs of the world, and it needs to also give you the confidence that it's always going to be locked should your kid find it or should an assailant take it away from you. So like reliability to me is like the number one most important thing to produce a smart gun that gun owners actually want, right? That would actually be a viable choice when you're thinking about a home defense weapon. The second one, which is less important, but still very important, is speed, right? What's the latency? How fast is it? Does it introduce any additional roadblocks, delays? Even if those are perfectly reliable, you don't want to compromise experience, and you don't want to add anything else you need to think about, again, especially if you just woke up in the middle of the night. And so we found that these inhibition-based approaches were unable to satisfy those requirements, right? Trying to integrate electromechanically with a little motor or something like that to an existing mechanical architecture that was never designed to be integrated with like that. And then combined with the speed of, sure, as you notice, like there's a full-size platform. We have taken up the space that you'd normally have a Picatinny rail for electronics. We'll talk about how we're solving that later. But it's still a pretty, a bulky platform. And believe me, we've done a lot of work to streamline it even to the point we're at here. That's because we're super space constrained, right? And fitting actuators, fitting other electronics inside of that can be really challenging. So punchline is the inhibition-based approaches, I think, are not capable of delivering the reliability required to do this and the speed required to do this. Biofire's electronic fire control system, which we have like multiple patents granted on, it's been a huge focus for us to develop. And this is the first time that we've built technology like this has ever been built in a handgun, is fundamentally solves those problems, right? It arms and disarms within literal microseconds, right? Not milliseconds, microseconds, which is insanely fast. And it is not only more reliable than an electromechanical lock, it actually allows us to improve the reliability of the entire firearm, because we have less mechanical fire control components that, can get fouled, need cleaning, wear out, and we replace them with solid state electronics that never need to be maintained. So anyway, I'm talking a lot. I'll switch back and let you ask questions. But
no, it's all very interesting.
Yeah,
and I think you're doing a pretty good job of giving us your mindset on how you approach developing this firearm, because it is something that is wholly unique. I'm not aware of any. I mean, there may be some military firearms.
Like big naval battleship guns and things like that, like really big weapon platforms can use technology like this, but nothing on the small arm side.
Yeah, I've never seen anything where it's a fire-by-wire system. In other words, where the trigger is not mechanically attached to the sear that drops the striker block for the firing pin to actually contact the primer on a round. Now that you didn't go. It's a lot of development that you're clearly doing here with this firearm. Although you didn't necessarily go beyond. It still uses regular ammunition that you put through any firearm.
Yep.
I know there was Remington had a electronic primer system years ago that didn't work, or not that it didn't work, but it didn't take off. It wasn't adopted widely. But you haven't gone on that, right? You're keeping the basic mechanics of how a round actually goes off the same. What you're changing here is the firing mechanism to something that has never been done in the market before, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And it's really, the most important part of our process, in my opinion, is a really close relationship with our customers and discussion with our customers. And so over the course of the company and over the course of our development, we've talked to over 10,000 potential customers, done user research. We've given them prototypes. We've brought them in to simulate threat environments. We've done surveys. And we do that both with entry-level first-time gun buyers, right, including a lot of folks that had never shot before participating in our research. We have an expert advisory board that's all the way the other end of the spectrum, and it's all SOCOM, Navy SEALs, like folks that have been professionally trained to use firearms for many, many years. And the goal is to take all this cutting-edge technology and really simplify it down into an experience that's very straightforward. We found that ammunition in particular was one that the vast majority of people that are using handguns for home defense use 9mm. And it's a very well understood caliber. It's one that's just only gotten better in the last 20 years. And going in and turning this into some sort of model where there's a proprietary ammunition that you need to buy from us, it makes it a lot more challenging, right? It makes it harder to adopt. It makes it more expensive. I guarantee we would not be able to produce some sort of novel ammunition for anywhere near the price you can go buy 9mm, even post-COVID prices. I
think that was one of the problems with the e-tronics system.
Yeah, and it's new novel technology, but it's new novel technology for consumable. Like obviously our base product here is a premium product, right? We're charging $14.99 on our website right now, asking for $150, $149 deposit. But that's a one-time purchase, right? And that's something where you can invest into that, and then you'll have a great high-quality product, as opposed to adding, doubling the cost of maybe every single round that you shoot. That really adds up over time.